Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, where we chat with industry leaders and get their take on the challenges facing the market. And maybe we'll have a little fun along the way. On this week's episode of the Marketing Stir, Vincent welcomes Janet Dulsky, Director of Retention Marketing at Adobe, as they discuss how and why to keep your customers loyal.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Stirista's The Marketing Stir. I am your host, Vincent Petrofessa, the Vice President of B2B Products and Interim General Manager. I've been the Interim General Manager for like 4 years now. What's happening? When are they going to promote this guy? It's an inside joke and our listeners know what we're talking about, but it is so great to be talking to you again. Maybe it's August, maybe it's September, still hot, I would imagine. But let's take a pause to talk about Stirista and the Marketing Stir. We are a marketing technology company. We own our own business-to-business data, business-to-consumer data. We help companies get to that data, to push their messaging to it, to get new customers. We have our own email platform. We have our own DSP. Email me, vincent@stirista.com. That is how confident I am. I just gave you my email address. And boy, do you use it. Not always for what it's intended, but it's okay. That means you're listening or AI's listening. I don't know. Who knows? But I still get messages. So thank you. Also, thank you for letting us know how much you love the podcast. AJ and I were recently at an event and so many people enjoyed it. We have a new fan, Neha. She was like, please mention me on the podcast. I'm such a big fan. So shout out to Neha out there listening. It's the first time we mention people by name, and not everyone asks to do that, but she did. Big fan. Anyway, also a big fan of my co-host. He's not here today, though. He is not here. He's busy. He's a CEO. He's traveling. Who knows? But he's with us in spirit. You know, we love him here. And also, I love this next guest. It is an amazing organization. We're going to dig into this company because it's a great organization, so many different layers. We're talking about Adobe. Yep, smile on your face out there. Exactly. But we're going to dig into the different areas of the company. And we have an amazing guest, ladies and gentlemen. She is the Director, Global Retention Marketing. That's interesting right there, right? Let's take a look at that title. Janet Dulsky, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, Janet?
Hello, Vincent. Thanks for having me.
Let's get started with Adobe and in your particular role at the organization. Love that term retention. We use it a lot in my world here at Stirista. We're focused on acquisition, some retention, but we love that word. Tell the audience what that means.
Of course. So I lead a team within the Experience Cloud marketing team. I call my team Adoption Marketing. And we are what I often tell people we're the unmarketers. What I mean by that is we don't sell. We're not involved in new logos and new ASV. We're not doing cross-sell. We're not doing upsell. What we're doing is leveraging typical acquisition marketing channels like email and webinar, virtual and in-person events, as well as in-product guides to help our customers learn to use and be successful with their products. And we do that at scale. The customer, what's different about the work we do, we're really focused right on that buying group and decision makers. For my team, it's our users of the product that are the center of everything we do. And that's a philosophy I built into the framework that my team uses to build all of our adoption programs. One of the most important critical parts of that framework is listening, and it's listening to those users via one-on-one interviews, via surveys. One of the things that we have heard consistently from our users is that to be successful, you need to get your hands dirty. You need to be in the product. And when we ask them what advice they would give to a new user, that is exactly what they say. So using that insight, we actually built all of our email programs have two components. One is a learn it component, which is the content, the learning. And then the second is a try it component, which is a really interesting way we provide them with an exercise to actually try what they learned in the product. And then we measure the success of all of our programs based exactly on that, which is changing user behavior in the product.
Was I true in saying that? Were you at the Marketo side first, or were you in because Marketo, I think, retention, marketing automation. So you were there, and then did Adobe acquire
That's
Marketo?
exactly right, Vincent. I was at Marketo prior to the acquisition by Adobe, and then was able to bring the work my team does to Adobe, which at the time they didn't have anyone doing this work. So it was a wonderful opportunity for me to build beyond just the Marketo product into the other Experience Cloud products.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and so we were probably at that
Yeah,
conference at the
we might
same.
have been at the at
Was
a
that
Marketing Nation Summit together.
there was
Always
the
bleeding purple, everyone there, right?
purple, yeah, and it was like I remember their messaging was always strong because it was kind of like this was like the fierce marketer. I went to the one where I
Sarah
think
Kennedy,
your C yes, and your CEO at the time was like dancing on stage with Flo
Steve
Rida.
Lucas, yes.
Yes, I was like, it was so funny. I was like, look at this guy getting involved, but it really mimicked like, oh, this is like a dad getting up there on a concert and dancing. It was hilarious. But it was memorable.
That it's so true. And I would say certainly the marketing nation, those folks who use Marketo were incredibly passionate. And a lot of those folks have come over, are part of now the Adobe community, but very special. Those were special, special times.
Yeah, they were. That's awesome. Janet, let's take a step back. Talk to us about, and it's something we ask all of our guests because it's usually never a path, although, some of your path, it looks like is this, but how did you get started in marketing? Did you study marketing, which is the rarity of a lot of our guests?
That's definitely a rarity. Yes, you're right. No, actually, I was a communication studies and French literature major. However, I have been a lifelong marketer. I've been a product manager, product marketing, web marketing, and now retention marketing and sort of all things in between. But the thread that has always connected my roles, Vincent, was really a focus on customers, whether it was building products that customers wanted or creating content that they wanted to engage with, or now helping them get the most out of the products they purchased. That's always the piece is super important to me. My interest in adoption and retention marketing actually was sparked when I was at Marketo. And as you know, Marketo had and Adobe still has an amazing engaged online community. And from the moment I saw that community, it was an aha moment for me because I saw it in action and I saw customers on the online community asking questions where they were struggling and the other customers coming in and helping them out and providing answers. And I just had this moment to think, well, this is a untapped opportunity to drive adoption and retention, which I felt was really important. So I pitched that opportunity to our VP of marketing, and she hired me into the customer marketing team to turn the community into an adoption and retention channel. And then I had this second aha moment, which I realized on the demand side, we were using all these marketing channels to nurture customers. You mentioned it, Vincent, right? Nurturing and talking to our customers ahead of the sale. But once somebody signed their contract, we just stopped talking to them. And that felt like a really big miss. And so what I did then was sort of expand beyond just the community, but starting to use those same marketing channels to talk to our customers post sale. And from there, I started to build my team. And I have to say, I feel really lucky because I feel like I'm in like my best role ever because I'm leading a team I built from the town ground up. We are very different. It's a lot of the work we do is really leading edge. We're using technology and data, but we're really completely focused on our customers' post-sale learning experience. And I love that.
That's amazing. There's a few areas I want to go there with you, Jen, as far as retention marketing. Clarify this for me. Are you working with so someone signs up with Adobe, are you then helping them guide them through different solutions that you have, other possible solutions that they might be able to utilize, and or are you also helping them with their marketing efforts on, okay, how do you retain your own customers? How do you do this? How do you utilize the solution?
It's interesting, a little bit of both, Vincent. So when an enterprise company buys one of our Experience Cloud products, once they get their people get access to the product, that's when we start the conversation, if you will. So we have programming again that might be coming through email. We actually have in-product guidance, which would be those like pop-ups that are actually in the product while somebody's working to help them understand how to do something better. But what's interesting about the work that my team does, there's sort of three core pieces of kinds of content that we provide. We're providing either best practices, right? These are complex products. There are probably hundreds of different ways you can go about doing something. So we'll provide best practices, but these are best practices that comes from their peers, and I could talk about that later. But so best practices, tips and tricks, sort of like, okay, you can do it this one way, but here's like a secret way to do it a little bit better, be more efficient. And then I think the one other piece that's super important that speaks to what your last part of that question, which is use cases. What do I do with this? Like, what is the strategy? How do I get better at how I market to my customers using the Adobe product? And that's a very important piece of the content we provide to help customers really sort of unlock the value with their own marketing programs.
Mhm. And retention, after there is the customer, what do you think a lot of companies get wrong about retention?
Yeah, I feel passionately about this one. Honestly, I think it's as simple as they just don't put enough emphasis and therefore resources against it. Demand marketing has always been, and to be honest, continues to be like the sexy part of marketing, right? Because you're driving new logos and there's new revenue attached to it. And they work very closely with the sales org. And in most organizations, the sales folks have a lot of pull. But by not putting resources into helping users of their product be successful and continue to be customers, I think companies are missing incredible opportunity to drive revenue. We've probably all heard the statistics, right? It costs 7 times more to acquire a customer than to retain an existing one. 65% of most companies' business typically comes from your existing customers. Those customers spend more than new ones at a rate of like 67%, and they're more likely to try new products. So for me, the miss is just simply putting a focus and an emphasis and a resource behind actually prioritizing retention. I don't know that it'll ever have the same cachet as demand, but I just feel like there could be a lot more companies do. And I talk to a lot of my peers out there in the wild, and a lot of them say the same thing. It's just kind of like being a second-class citizen, which feels like a big miss.
Yeah. Well, Janet, let's talk about something too that I'm passionate about here at Stirista, and I know you're passionate about, but data, using data to drive these decisions. How are you using that in your role at Adobe? How has that evolved over the years?
Yeah. It's been a long and somewhat painful journey, to be honest, Vincent. But my team is data driven, and we not only use data about our users, like their roles or experience level or product usage, engagement or non-engagement, to personalize our programming and make it more relevant to them. But then we measure our program success against what our core KPI is, which I had mentioned before, is changing the user behavior in the product. We've made a lot of progress in the last several years, and like I said, it's been hard. We Our data, and I'm sure a lot of folks on this podcast are the same thing. The data is out there, but it sits in various different silos, and it's really hard often to stitch that data in a way that we want to use it. But as I said, we've had some really great successes. We now have dashboards for all of our programming that looks at a funnel view of our programs, very similar to what demand marketers look at, right? We look at our audience, reached and engaged. It's just our bottom of the funnel is different. We're not looking at a qualified lead, we're looking at product usage. And then we use that funnel to optimize our programming to see what parts of the funnel do we need to like tweak. We're not seeing as much engagement as we'd like. So what do we need to do with the content, right? Or if it's an email, it's the the opening lines or any other piece of it, right? The subject line. We've had over the last, say, year and a half, had a big unlock and something I've been chasing for years, which is how do we connect the impact of our adoption programming to retention revenue? And we've now unlocked that. And so we can see that impact by product and by channel, which has been a game changer for us in building our strategy for our programming, but also articulating our value of our programming to leadership. My hope is going back to that previous question where companies are missing their retention. My hope is that by having that ability to connect to dollars, that I can get more airtime and resources and focus. So it's been a long journey. We haven't stopped. We're still moving forward on that journey, but data is super critical to everything we do.
That's awesome. And while you were saying that, Janet, I had a question bubbling up and you touched upon it. I'd love to see if you can expand on it as well. Is because you think sometimes it's like renewal and usage, that's the determining factor for success. But what are some other factors that you can talk upon and expand upon? Because you mentioned a few there. Success rates.
Yeah. So one of the interesting pieces, I feel very confident that we have a good handle on our core KPI, which is the product usage, because that is what we want to do. We want to change behavior because that leads to deeper adoption and retention. But one of the areas where I've long felt we had a gap and we're just starting to really dig into is actually content engagement. And it's a little bit of a softer signal, but I think it's really critical when we look at that funnel in terms of, are people getting it? Are they really engaging with it? So we're just actually literally this next month going to be starting to use some tools that'll help us understand how far users are getting through our videos or an article and where they disengage. And the goal there is, what can we do to improve that? And so, for example, we've been talking about, do we include CTAs and simple surveys sort of deeper in the content to really draw users all the way through so they get everything they need out of that learning content. So that's probably one of the, call it softer signals, but something that I think is really critical, and we're starting to unlock that.
Hmm. And I want to go back to something you said earlier, because I think it coincides with each other. The community, the advocacy program, is that kind of the same thing? How do you decide who would join that? Is it open to all customers? Would love to learn more about that because that's come up in the past with some of our listeners. They've asked me, are there any, more, some companies are starting these community programs, advocacy. How do I start? So we'd love to hear more.
Of course. And that's been a long history that we've had from Marketo, that again, those programs were brought over to Adobe. So just to be clear, our online community is a little different. We do actually have, I don't own that online community, one of my peers does, but we do have what we call community advisors. So it is sort of an advocacy program within that online community. However, there are two programs that are part of my remit that I think are really important. One is our Adobe user groups, and the other is our Adobe Champion program. So user groups are actually customer-led groups. So these are not my team or anyone else at Adobe. Don't put these together. We actually have customers, and most of these customers, Vincent, at this point have raised their hand. We have relationships. I talked about our interviews, and we've built a lot of relationships with customers. So sometimes we'll go out to them and nudge them a little bit if we, hey, we think it'd be really interesting for you to run one of our user groups. But a lot of times they're raising their hand. These are hand raisers. And those user groups are amazing opportunities. So think about the online community I was talking about, where people are sharing, learning, and answering questions. So this just brings it into a smaller venue. It might be in person, and that happens a lot, or we do have some that are virtual. And it's a place that our users are coming together to network, they collectively problem solve, and they're sort of helping each other learn more deeply about their Adobe product. Our Adobe Champion program is sort of our most elite advocate program, and it's designed to give our top product users a platform from which to share their deep knowledge with other customers. And a lot of that comes through content through my scaled programming. They get the opportunity to collaborate with Adobe product teams and actually influence the product roadmap, and be recognized globally for their expertise. What I did last year, I took these two advocate programs on, and I restructured my team into product pods. But the goal of that, Vincent, was to more deeply integrate these advocate programs with our more scaled adoption programming. So what it looks like now, for example, is our user group leaders are having meetings to help customers learn to use the areas of the product that we know are critical for success and that we are supporting then at scale through email or in-product guidance. So trying to tie that learning journey and experience together, whether you're at a user group meeting, whether you're going through one of our emails, or you're in your product and going through one of our guides, or you're on a webinar, tying all those pieces together to have a really consistent experience. I don't think I mentioned on the Adobe Champion program, that is an application process. It happens once a year. And so customers have an opportunity to apply, and then we'll go through those applications and choose a new class. And that's only 40 people. So it is a small sort of elite program, but those are sort of the best of our best.
I love that. It's like a secret. It's like a society of people that's one of the things I didn't address is because, Adobe, again, when I said at the beginning of the podcast before introducing you, it's like so many different products that people know. And it's like, Adobe Acrobat and all the creative different pieces of it, Photoshop, right? Are you responsible, or is it just a particular product that someone like, is it the Adobe Experience Cloud that people sign up for, and then that's who you are working with? Is it all products? What, just talk to me about that.
Yeah, of course. And it is a little complicated. So you're right. Everybody knows Adobe splits its business basically into two. We have our Creative Cloud, which is frankly the products everybody knows, which is Photoshop and Firefly and all of that fun, good stuff. And then our Experience Cloud, and that's really much more of a B2C business. Our Experience Cloud product is designed for a B2B, primarily for B2B. So that's things like Marketo Engage and our Adobe Analytics product. And we have our Experience Manager website experience product. So that's the side of the house that I'm on. And I support almost all of our Experience Cloud product for adoption. And so when a company buys any one of those or multiple of those products, I have programming for them for those users who are hands-on keyboard in those products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's what I'm familiar with, because being on the B2B side, those are the products that I'm familiar with. But I know there's so many different, products and great products out there. So, Janet, you got me excited when you were talking about, we were earlier talking about the summit. You were talking about this secret advocacy groups. I'm like, all right, when is the next summit? When am I coming back to the summit? And we're saying hello in person.
Mark your calendar, Vincent. It's April 19th through the 22nd. Next year, 2006, we're back in Las Vegas. There will be lots of great fun. We always have a big party, but also really great opportunity to learn about what's coming in our Experience Cloud products.
That's awesome. And that's yeah, I get the VIP treatment. AJ, who is not here today, we'll see if we'll bring him along. But that's awesome. Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have to meet in person. Let's say we'll wait till April. Now we'll see when you're coming to New York. Come on. Um, I talked about AI as a joke earlier. I was just kind of saying something, but you know, AI must be something that obviously Adobe is instilling. Uh, how do you build trust with AI, especially when it comes to B2B, like our world, who sometimes are skeptical about it?
It's a really great question. And I think, frankly, as marketers, we're all figuring it out. But I come back to sort of the mainstay, which I talked a lot about my passion for customers and really listening to them. And I think we have to listen to our customers and understand what's causing them heartburn, right? There's so much hype out there that, to your point, Vincent, I think people are skeptical. Like, really, is it going to really change the world? And someday it will be there, but I think we've all had the experience that it's not quite there, and that's okay, right? It's a fast moving and improving certainly market, but one of the things that I have seen time and again in my role and what my team does is to build trust. I think it's really important for companies to just be really authentic. And one of the ways that we do that is actually providing the voices and customers of other customers. So one of the things I think we can do, and actually my team is just starting down this path, which is have content from real users about how are they using AI, right? What are they learning? What's not working? How are they testing it? How are they pivoting? And I think when you hear that, what typically what I'm hearing is you won't feel so alone and overwhelmed because, right, we're all in the same boat. It's working in some ways, and in other ways, it's not working so well. But it is moving fast, and so I think it's really important if we want to, and particularly with AI, trust is going to be super critical. I think we have to maybe tone down a little bit of the marketing messaging and the hype, and really kind of be a little bit, hey, here's what it is today. We're improving it. We want your feedback, but also providing the voice of other customers who are using that product. How are they feeling about it? What are they doing? And I think that's really important. So to me, it kind of comes down to listening and then providing content that is authentic.
I asked that question because maybe like 4 minutes, Janet, before we started this podcast, I got an email where someone took my like entire title and tagline from LinkedIn. And if you ever go to my LinkedIn page, people, it's kind of I tell people what I do, and I kind of have this funny little anecdote that AJ and I have. So it says, "Hello, as the vice president of B2B products and co-host of the Marketing Stir, and funnier co-host of the Marketing Stir," because I added that in there a couple weeks ago, just to because AJ writes naturally funny on his, and I'm like, come on. And I was like, they used it word for word. I was like, come on, buddy. Like you just take that and use it and say, hey, I listened to the podcast. You are the funnier, co-host, and then tell me something. Okay, then you use the snippet of it. But yeah, you got to use it right.
Yeah, I'm with you. There are certainly, I mean, we're all using Copilot and all, there's so many opportunities to use it. And there's some really interesting things that it can do. But I'm with you when it comes to sort of, I don't know what it is. There's something human, and I know it. I'm the same way, Vincent. I can see it when I get something that was completely written by Copilot versus something that some human wrote. There's just, you just know it. And so I think there's the human element is still important. We can talk about, I think there's lots of opportunity, but humans should still be in control.
Especially in B2B, because at the end of the day, right? It's like we're business professionals, but we're people, and people like to engage with people and buy from people. So this is what we talk about all the time. Let's stay on this topic. It's the question that we ask every one of our guests, and if we miss it, our listeners get real mad. It is about LinkedIn, right? Someone looks at your title, high title at a great company. You're probably getting a lot of messages from on LinkedIn, and I know how hard it is to connect with you on. I'm kidding. No, we're buddy. We yeah, we're connected. I have to earn our request, as I was joking around, but no. So what's a message, Janet, that resonates with you on LinkedIn, and what's one that you just don't respond to, you dislike?
I think it goes back to what we were just talking about, Vincent. I am very open to talking to folks. I think about it as sort of a paying forward. There's a lot of people that have helped me throughout my career, and I'd love to have conversations with interesting people. So I'm intrigued by messages that come from people who have really thought carefully about what they want out of the conversation. Like it's very intentional. They've looked and they've made some sort of authentic connection. Then I'm always open to it. And you know the difference, right? Because the one things I totally dislike are those generic connection requests, which means you saw my profile, you looked at my title, and you sent a request without thinking about it. I just have no patience for that because, Anybody can do that. A bot could do that. Um, I I think it's really important if you really truly want to make a connection with somebody and reach out to think about it. Like you said it yourself. We're humans, so treat me as a human being, not as a title. And why do you want to talk to me? What's interesting?
Yeah.
So
No, I agree. We had a guest one time, they used this term pitch slapped. It's sometimes you get it's like those connections, Jenna, that are like maybe 13 people in common. You're like, oh, okay, all right. And then they just get you with like, hi, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, you tricked me. You got me. Those are my least.
exactly. Nuts.
Yeah. I was like, darn it. They got me. So let's get into like some fast ones here, and then we'll get to know you personally here. What's the Adobe product you're using the most lately?
Well, we use all of our Adobe products. So we use Marketo Engage for our email programming. But what I'm most excited about is we are using our real-time CDP product, which it allows us to do personalization. So we're starting to do some really interesting things in terms of like connecting channels. So we have a program currently running, for example, that if a user doesn't engage with they're getting an email program and they don't do what it was that we were hoping they would do based on the content we provided them. We then do provide them in product guidance to nudge them into doing that behavior. So, hey, we saw this, you engaged with it, but you didn't get far enough. And so now we're nudging you in product. So we're kind of tying those two channels together. And that's something we can do with real-time CDP, which is really interesting. So we're starting to create this much more personalized, even more personalized relevant programming. We have another program running where if a user, we're looking at sort of what the user is doing, where in the product they are. And then rather than just send them a nurture that, once a week you get an email with these topics, we're sending emails based on what they're doing. So if you're in the analytics product and you're creating segmentation, then we're going to follow that up and send you an email to help you do that even better. So really kind of tying that behavior, making it really super relevant. And we're seeing that that's much more, no surprise, engaging for people.
That's awesome. No, sounds pretty cool. What has been inspiring you lately?
I almost hate to say it because everybody's talking about it. But I am very intrigued by our AI agents. I'm excited about the promise for folks like myself, marketers, to be able to sort of offload the repetitive executional elements of our work to agents who they should be honestly faster and more efficient than we are, and then leave us the opportunity and the space to focus more on strategy and up-leveling our programming and thinking about how to make our program more relevant and personalized. So I am really excited about that, and Adobe has quite a few AI agents that we are launching this year. We announced at Summit. So those are honestly the things I'm super excited to see.
That's awesome. Now, the personal side, let's get to know you, Janet. What do you like to do for fun? What are some of your hobbies? What's the weekend like?
Oh, my weekends are not always exciting, but one of the things, there's sort of two things that I love most, which is one is travel, the other is being outdoors, and I often marry the two. So I love to hike and bike and just be outside exploring. I was actually in Patagonia earlier this year with my husband.
Oh, nice.
It was an amazing experience. It is a beautiful part of the world. If I highly encourage people to check it out. We got to see penguins up close. I walked on a glacier. We hiked some gorgeous mountains and met some really, really wonderful people, both in Argentina and Chile. So that's what I like to do.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember. So we didn't get down to Patagonia, but my honeymoon was in Argentina and Chile. We went to Santiago, Chile. We went there, and I remember they served some of the seafood from Patagonia, and it's honeymoon, so we're like, yeah, let's get that $180 crab. Like, that's like, it was amazing. We went to Argentina. We went to Mendoza, which is the Malbec region, and the beautiful wines from Chile. Yeah, it was awesome. That's great. And also we want to say hi to mom. Mom's going to be listening to the podcast or what? Let's see.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Give her a shout out, mom and dad. Vincent, nice to meet you. No, this has been great, Janet. Any closing thoughts you want to leave the audience? The floor is yours.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about this and kind of coming back to AI because that's what we all talk about. I was sort of thinking about how marketing is once again going through a huge transition, right? There was several years ago, the transition was from, sort of communication and content to becoming much more data driven and all about the numbers. And now we're making this transition to AI, and we're just starting to scratch the surface, as I was talking about earlier, about what it means to us. Like, what does it mean for our work and also for the experiences we're creating for our customers? I think it's going to be an exciting ride, y'all. But I think, and for me, I'm keeping in mind sort of three things: moving forward with what I call a curious mindset. Uh, Two, being willing to try and fail and try again, because I think that's what it's going to take. And then number three, maintaining, my laser focus on doing what's best for our customers. With all customers always front and center. And I think this is going to be exciting.
I love it. I love it. It's a great final thought. That is Janet Dulsky. I'm Vincent Petrofessa. We are not AI. AJ couldn't be here. Maybe he's AI. Who knows? I don't know. But that is the Director of Global Retention Marketing at Adobe. I hope you learned more about Adobe. Check out Adobe. Check out the summit in April. Maybe I'll be there. Maybe you'll see me. Janet will definitely be there. But that's Janet Dulsky. I'm Vincent Petrofessa. This has been another episode of The Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com.